Hello and welcome to episode 12 of From Deep. I am your host Luke Jansen, and we are here today again with my boy Phil Wiseman. Phil, say hello.
Let's talk some basketball, you Satanash.
Oh my goodness, Phil has been captured and replaced by an Irish Phil. I like it, or a Scottish Phil, however you want to take it. But we got a great show in store for you today. We got From Deep NBA playoffs, which have kind of been the consistent ones, but today, something new for the show. We are going to be opening up our 2021 NBA playoff series packs from Top Shots and seeing which moments we get. It's really exciting. If you don't know what Top Shots is, I highly suggest you check that out later in the show because it's going to be pretty fun.
Absolutely. Top Shot is a trend that is shaping the nation. NFTs, if you don't know what those are, I'm not going to be able to tell you the abbreviation, but they're cool things with Top Shot. That's all you got to know.
They are really cool, and we're going to jump into it later. But in the meantime, let's get here into the good stuff from deep. But first, Phil, we're going to have a rock, paper, scissors. It was a controversial win last week. My brain said rock, but my hand said scissors. I was trying to cheat, I guess. But let's see what happens this week. Are you ready, Phil?
I have my dukes up ready to go. Let's do it.
Hopefully my brain and my hands work together today.
One can hope.
3, 2, 1, scissors.
Paper. Hey, you got it. Good.
All right, and for those that don't see it visually, there was scissors held up, and my brain said scissors as well. So this is good. I'm a dominant.
We can stop the podcast. We've won tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so it's all over. Phil, you got the rest of the podcast. I'm gonna take the night off. I think I just swept you. That's a gentleman's sweep now, 4-1. Me
and Bob in the background got it. Bob the plant, we got it.
Best of luck with the rest of the pod. Enjoy it. I'm out.
All right. All right.
So my question first. Are you ready for this, Phil? Let's
see that transition, baby. Yeah.
Swish. Everybody's here for the swish because it just sounds so pretty. So my question to you, Phil, is if you had to have one NBA team and their team name be a player for you, which team would you pick? To further emphasize what I'm saying, if you had the Memphis Grizzlies, for example, you would have a Grizzly playing in your starting five. If you had the Minnesota Timberwolves, you would have a Timberwolf playing on your side. So which team would you pick to have their mascot or team name play with you? So mind you, they do have to play some type of basketball. Or, you could have a grizzly bear potentially be like a 5 just in the paint, keeping everybody away. I don't think anyone would want to be taking a layup on a grizzly bear. But you're now also running in a transition offense with a grizzly bear as your 5. So, who knows what's going to happen. So what are you thinking, Phil? Let me switch over to your face.
Yeah, well, you would have just seen me staring off.
Were you prepared for this question?
No, you would have just seen me staring off into the distance like this.
It's a great question, though.
It is a very good question.
You know what it brought to me to mind, and I'll just talk for a minute here while you think. I have no idea what some of this stuff is. Like, does anybody know what a clipper is? Like, they talk
or a Laker?
Like a clipper? Like hair clippers? Like, and a Laker? I don't know. I have no idea what a Laker is.
What's a pacer?
Yeah. Well, I figured like maybe a pacer, you could go like runner, like a pacer.
Yeah, okay.
Like something like that. But yeah, the Spurs. I wonder if the Spurs meant like a cowboy, because they do.
I think it's like a cowboy. Yeah.
Yeah, because they have the the spur wheel that went on the cowboy boots back in the day.
Yeah,
their logo. I never really thought about that, but yeah, I'm assuming that was meant to be a cowboy. The Trailblazers, that's kind of a cool one.
What is a Trailblazer though?
I mean, like someone that leads the way, someone that's cutting forward, cutting edge, right? So either way, it brought in some Denver Nuggets, a golden nugget. But yeah, Phil, what team would you pick?
I think the Washington Wizards. A wizard on your team is going to be very good.
Yep.
I think if it's a proper wizard, if we're talking like a Harry Potter wizard,
they have to play, right? So they do have to play ball.
Well, they can make themselves grow tall. They can trick the other team to score on themselves.
Yep.
They can trick the ref to be on their side. I don't know. A wizard.
This is not the foul you were looking for.
Exactly. Double technical. You're out of here.
Okay.
Is that what you're thinking? Or
yeah, no, that's great. The Wizards was going to be my pick, but now you've now made me have to change my angles.
Orlando Magic could be similar, right? I was thinking a Magic or a Wizard, right?
Yeah. For sure. You know what though? I'm gonna go a little bit off here and go with something that that you weren't expecting, and it's gonna be the Utah Jazz, because we're gonna play sweet sweet jazz to lull the the opponent team
I
to
was
sleep.
also thinking a raptor too. A
Oh, the
raptor
Raptor,
could
but
be
the
a good
Raptor
one.
can't hold a basketball. Just be terrifying.
No,
Like,
no.
but
Oh,
a
that's a
jazz
great
player.
noise.
I don't know if you've ever watched Parks and Rec. Ron
I
Swanson.
haven't.
Ron
I haven't.
Swanson is this wonderful jazz player that just sweeps all the lady off their feet. And I just feel like you could throw a jazz player onto the court just playing sweet, sweet jazz while you're trying to shoot a three, and just like you just miss because you're just so brought over by the music. You just start to dance.
Mm.
And we know our NBA players like to dance. So
Mm.
I lock and load my answer with the Utah Jazz. I will have a jazz player on my team with a sax going up and down the floor, shooting threes and playing sweet, sweet music. And you have
I
locked
like
your
that.
answer in as a Washington Wizard, and he's going to be doing Jedi mind tricks and pulling off all types of fun stuff. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's the way to do it. But if you guys have a better answer, let us know.
You could go the
Facebook
Celtic.
messages.
You could go
I was thinking
because
of
of the luck of the Irish.
a Golden State Warrior.
Yes, you could have a Warrior on there. There's some good ones for sure.
A good one.
The Nets, whenever you could just multiply the nets. You could be a fake net.
You could put a fake net.
You could put a fake net. Or, you could be the Golden State Warriors. That you could have, you could use their iconic logo. Just put a bridge in there,
Or I mean, you could be the Knickerbockers and just have a giant pair of underwear play for you. It's your call. It's your call.
It's whatever. The Suns, you just burn everybody who's in the arena. Give everybody
the Heat. The Heat's just a flamethrower.
There's a lot of good options here. Although the only one that I definitely still have no idea, and maybe someone can inform me, is what in the world a Laker is.
That's yeah.
Hey, we're gonna look this up right now. Actually, define Laker.
What is a Laker?
A lake trout, a ship constructed for carrying cargo on the Great Lakes. If that's exactly what it's made out of, I'm gonna laugh.
I hope that's what it is. Although I feel like it's not, because Los Angeles, Great Lakes.
The Los Angeles lake trout.
I like it.
You see a fish going in there?
Too good.
What's the Lakers mascot?
What is the Lakers mascot? That's a great question.
Los Angeles. Sorry, we're going on a deep dive for anybody who's in here, because now I'm interested. I hope you guys are too. This is where my brain goes sometimes.
I'm interested as well.
Lakers.
What's going on with the Lakers?
The Los Angeles Lakers don't have a mascot.
That's what I was trying to think of one.
They don't even know who they are. They're like, no. They looked it up. They're like, lake trout. No, no. We'd rather have no mascot than be a lake trout. I just don't think that's very, like, you come out.
You think it was Magic Johnson's decision?
You got Celtics, you got Raptors, and you got Lake Trout. Like, hi.
Oklahoma City Thunder.
The Thunder would.
Although it'd just be loud noise. So whenever anyone goes up for a shot, you just go right in their ear and they miss.
There's lots of Pistons, so it's
a car.
Yeah, you should just bring a car out on the Rockets.
A buck and a bull is pretty good too. Having a bull on.
There's a lot of good options. This could be its own podcast, but this is where we locked in. We locked in on Washington Wizards, and we locked in on Utah Jazz. And you tell us, my people that are watching this, our subscribers, what you would pick. Now, Phil, we're gonna jump into your question. Rock and roll.
Sure. So, don't know if you're watching Game 1, but we had good interaction between Quinn Snyder and Donovan Mitchell when the Jazz were down in the game. And Snyder is mic'd up and he said, "This is where it's at. You know what I'm saying? You just got to keep your mind right, and it overcomes everything, just like you were doing, okay? Let's go. Do it on D, and it will happen on O." For me, that was like iconic, almost sports moment. Reminds me kind of like Coach Carter, like one of those kind of speeches that the coach takes or says. So my question for you, if you're a coach on the sideline, what would you say to motivate your player in this situation, Donovan Mitchell? What would you be saying on his end? I just thought that was an amazing moment. I'm really glad ESPN shared that.
What would I be saying?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Phil, what do you think? What do you think I would say? Wait, get into the mind of Luke for a second. What do you think me, as our friendship over the last 16 years? What do you think I really would say to someone like that if we were down, Phil, and I had to motivate my players?
I think you would be like Stephen A. Smith. What do you know about basketball? What do you know about the game of basketball? Do you dribble the basketball? Do you shoot the basketball? Do you score the basketball? No. I shoot the basketball and score the basketball. It's terrible, Stephen A. Smith, but that's imagining what I'm thinking you're saying. So
Well, yeah, no, I'd be like, hey, listen, yeah, you lose the game, that's fine. I can grab a fan out there who'll play better than the way you are tonight, Donovan. So either you start, either you step up or you get out. So that would be my motivational speech. I'm a hard hitter. If I'm ever gonna coach people, it's just like, you're garbage. Prove me otherwise, or sit on the bench, and I'll find somebody to play less like garbage.
I can see you coaching the peewees right now, 6 and 7 year olds crying, going to their parents, and never playing
This ain't
basketball
a
again.
game, son. This is real life. You miss buckets, people die.
And that's when little Timmy decided basketball wasn't for him, and he went to play soccer.
That's fine. Cut him out early. He wasn't the MVP of the league. Get him out young. No, if you can't make it, no. Yeah, no. I've always been one to coach on the pulling out the best out of players by like. It would take a very strong player to play with a coach like me if I was to ever coach. I'm a
You did
tough
do
person.
some coaching, right? You
Yeah,
did do some
I did.
coaching.
I did, and I didn't obviously talk like that, but like I expected.
No.
If players are good and I expect them to do what they should be doing.
Mhm.
I'm just more of a harder coach in that way. I would just,
Mhm.
you know, it kind of like the LeBrons. Like if you're playing with the best of the best, like no matter what you say, you got to light a fire under them, especially in the
Yeah.
playoffs. So being like, come on, you got to play better. You got to do that. Doesn't work for everybody though. And that's why
No,
it's
it doesn't.
interesting. Like, you have some players that do really well with some coaching styles and some that don't, because it really depends on who the coach is as a person, right? Like
Yeah.
some players might want a positive reinforcement, and you as a coach, obviously the best coaches know how to deal with each single player.
Each individual.
Yeah,
Mhm.
rather than being like, this is how I am. But if you get in the head of each player. But yeah, for me, I don't know. Donovan, I'd probably just try to light a fire on him. I don't know if that's the type of player he is, but that'd be like, you're playing like garbage, Donovan. Get better or get out. I don't know. I just feel like that ignites me. That's what gets me going. So I would hope that would get him going.
Yeah. Well, Mike Malone, speaking of different ways to kind of motivate people. So after they lost game two, he went to the media and basically lambasted his team, just absolutely said how bad they played, how awful they were. So there's obviously like different ways that coaches are trying to get into the minds to kind of motivate people. So you're right, different strategies, different strokes for different folks, as they say.
Yeah, it's
So
all. Hey, playoff basketball is much mental as it is physical, because you're playing the best of the
100%.
best. And if you're not all mentally there, it doesn't matter if you're the best physical player. You're not going to win. You got to be there on both sides. And as a coach, it's really tough to navigate all the personalities of an NBA roster.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess this kind of leads into our just final from deep question here, which is don't know if you listened to the Bill Simmons podcast this day, actually, Friday. They were debating about if Donovan Mitchell is a superstar or not. So when I was listening to that podcast, I was thinking about, what is your definition of a superstar? What comes to mind when you think of a superstar? Is it like a certain player?
So that's our insightful question. It's like, what is?
Yeah,
So our
exactly.
insightful question is, what is your definition of a superstar this week? And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it to be a superstar, because there's all star, which means you're good, but a superstar is like, you're LeBron James, you're Steph Curry, you're Kevin Durant, and like, does Donovan Mitchell fit in that group? First, I would say my definition of a superstar, it doesn't really have anything to do with rings. I would say. I mean, that debate can be for Hall of Fame. That's where I think rings come into play. To be a superstar in the league, you just have to have it, and you got to be, and it's more than just playoffs. Because right now you could say Donovan Mitchell is just like, he's like an NBA playoff superstar. The guy plays unbelievable basketball. I mean, you can even look at Trae Young playing unbelievable basketball in the playoffs, and like, you're like, these are playoff performers. Rondo is a playoff performer. Obviously, every year he's not as strong as he used to be, but like, no one was ever like mid-season, oh, Rondo's a superstar. But when he got to the playoffs, prime Rondo, that is, you could be like, oh man, this guy's a superstar. So I would say my definition of superstar is like, you're doing it all the time. You're doing it through the regular season. You're doing it through the playoffs. You're doing it in the off season, whether you're going to the Olympics or whether you're playing for your national team. It's like, just in everything you do, you're a superstar. I mean, Russell Westbrook, clear definition of a superstar. You set yourself apart from everybody else. So Donovan Mitchell,
and stuff.
is he a superstar? I would say no. I think he's a playoff superstar, but I don't. When I think, like, when I name the names LeBron James and Steph Curry and James Harden, all these guys, they have their thing and they're like the best at it. And that's what makes them a superstar. When I say the name Donovan Mitchell, I, I can't
Doesn't
say
ring for you.
there's nothing that speaks to me that, like, oh yeah, it's a superstar, an amazing player and killing it in the playoffs the last 2 years, 100%. But there's nothing that Donovan, he's just not, he's too young. I'll put it that he's 24. He's definitely on his way to stardom and superstardom, but he's not done anything to me that's like, oh wow, that's Donovan Mitchell's go-to. Like, nobody else does that better than Donovan Mitchell.
So would you say Luka Doncic is a superstar?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason
Yeah.
I'd say that is because, again, when you think of those players, they do something so well that you're like, nobody else can do it. Maybe players previously have done it, of course, but I'm talking about in the league right now. Like, when you say the names, what is it they do? Quiet. The guy is robotic. When he's in the zone, that guy is unstoppable. It doesn't matter what you
Mhm.
throw at him. 17 to 25. Like, sure, he has those games where he's off and whatnot, but like, these are Giannis. You think of his pure athleticism and his ability to just get to the rim, his ability to be a humble leader. And then you got Donovan Mitchell, and I just say he's a good scorer, but that's all around the NBA. There's a ton of great scores.
Yeah. I think he's taking, if he continues on the trajectory that he is on this playoffs, I think he's taking that step to superstardom, but I don't think he's there yet.
No, and
I
he's only
also think it has a
24.
little bit to play with the market too, right? Like, you think of Utah, you don't necessarily think of a superstar in some ways. I think the market has a bit to play as well with what you're saying as well.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, he's 24. A lot of players haven't built their superstardom by then. A lot of
No,
players don't get
no,
into who they are as a player until they're like 27, 28.
mid 20s.
Yeah,
Mid to late.
there's very few players. Like Luka is a a generational talent that comes along every once in a while and just comes in and does things very different.
Yeah.
Zion Williamson, again, not a great great. I wouldn't say he's a superstar yet because they haven't done a lot, but he's definitely, I would say he's closer to being a superstar than Donovan Mitchell, just in the sense of what new and unique things he's brought to the league.
The impact on the game that he
Where
brings.
I'm not going to deny that Donovan Mitchell is probably one of the best scorers in the league right now. I mean, he's torching teams. He's
The
unbelievable.
score doesn't make you a superstar.
But scoring
I think
doesn't
we
make
agree
you a
on that.
superstar. Yeah. And I think that's my definition of a superstar is when you say the name, you're like, wow, that guy is this guy. And I just don't think that's Donovan Mitchell yet. He's definitely on his way though.
Agreed. Well said. That was a really good summary. Nice.
Awesome. So now we are going to jump into the playoffs, and we are now officially into round 2 this week. Last week we still have one left to go, but let's listen to that big dunk. NBA playoffs. We are round 2. Things are heating up, Phil. It's been a ton of fun. I know you've been probably watching a lot of the games, been catching a lot of the highlights. Let's jump into the Jazz Clippers. They didn't play tonight, right? So it's still 2-0 for the Jazz.
Tomorrow night on Saturday.
Yeah. Okay. So going into Game 3, obviously the Jazz are up 2-0. The Clippers again are kind of looking a little lost, like they did against the Dallas. It's just like I don't know. For them, I feel like the Clippers just have to they need a coach like me. They need that fire lit under them. A couple games in, they need to be in an underdog situation to start playing. It seems, and the only thing is, as you get farther and farther into the playoffs, the harder and harder it is to catch back up on a 2-0 down. So we'll see what happens. Right now, the Jazz are showing why they're team number 1. During this series, we found out that Gobert has got his 3rd Defensive Player of the Year. Congratulations. That's awesome. He's 28. That ties him for so there's technically 2 people ahead of him, which would be Ben Wallace and Mutombo, who have 4 Defensive Player of the Years. He's tied all time. So currently you could say he's tied with Dwight Howard with 3. So technically he's in 3rd, although in the standings he'd be 2nd, if that makes sense, because of the way it's rated. Right. He's 28. There's a very, very likely chance he could secure a 4th. A 5th?
Yeah.
I don't know, because we see a lot of to be a Defensive Player of the Year after 30 as a center. Although, again, I will say the centers are very, very different than what they used to be. Gobert could very well be the first guy we see late into his 30s be a huge defensive stopper. So, yeah, he's been playing amazing. It's unbelievable. 3rd Defensive Player of the Year. That's no small feat. Like I said, the last person to do it to have 3 would be Dwight Howard, and that was prime Dwight Howard. So
Mhm.
Gobert is obviously doing his job. He's doing everything he needs to do for the Jazz.
That big
Um,
block on Marcus Morris at the end of game one to stop them from
huge
going.
recovery, man. Huge recovery. Jumped up, missed the block, turned around, and was still able to get up on there. And Marcus Morris is not a small player, so like that's
Mhm.
not a easy thing to do and get around and stop to. But yeah,
And I think the interesting thing that he was doing on that play as well that may have gone unnoticed was how he kind of feigned a little bit to the middle so that it
it baited
opened
it.
up that
Yeah.
possibility. He baited it
Yeah,
perfectly.
100%. I saw. Yeah, he baited
Yeah,
that. He baited that like you and me doing 2K. You kind of
exactly right.
you bait the
Hmm.
player, and great on him to realize is Marcus or the Morris brother. You don't want
Hmm.
Kawhi or Paul George taking that shot. You want Marcus
That's
Morris.
right.
It's Marcus, right? That's the brother there.
Yeah, Marcus, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah,
That
Marcus.
you want Marcus taking that shot. And I'm not going to take anything away from Marcus. Marcus is a great player, but like if I had to pick between him and Kawhi Leonard, I'm Marcus Morris taking that shot 100 times out of 100 times than Kawhi. So great play by
Absolutely.
him. Great block. Another thing I kind of wanted to bring up about the series last game where you and me talked about, remember about the NBA Challenge a couple
Hmm.
weeks back and whether they should add some or have more. And so in the second quarter of the last game of the Jazz Clippers, they found this on Reddit and I really liked it. It's 8 minutes 57 seconds left in the second quarter. Utah was down 10. Rudy Gobert was called for a charge while making a layup. Quinn Snyder challenged it, won the challenge. It turned it into a 3-point swing, took the foul away from Rudy. Utah ended up winning by 3. Gobert ended up with 5 fouls.
Yeah, that's where the challenge comes in handy.
It really brings into the conversation though. It's like, and a lot of the comments are, is like, if the coach gets it right, they should get a second one.
I agree, and that was, I think, what our conclusion was. Right?
Yep.
If you win it, you should get another.
So it's just an interesting thing again to show, like in the playoffs, if that challenge didn't go through, there's a good chance Gobert's out, and there's a good chance they lose that game. So it was just to bring that up past that. But what have been thinking of this series so far, Phil? I've been talking about it quite a bit already.
No, I was. I think you've made the key points for this series. I would say the Jazz have been really impressive. The Clippers have been a little bit underwhelming. I would say you can really see the effect that the Jazz defense has, and the fact that they're winning without Mike Conley is really showing how much of a position of strength they're in, and that's why I think we're seeing Donovan Mitchell go off as to what he is right now. I think if they lose game three and Conley's still not healthy, I'd still sit him because you're up 2-1. You have a chance to go up 3-1 and head back home to clear off the series.
Yep.
I think it makes sense to kind of play coy, be a little safe with Conley's health. And if you want to make a run for the finals, you're going to need Mike Conley. You're not necessarily going to need Mike Conley to beat the Clippers because they don't really have a point guard there that can beat them.
No, no. Reggie Jackson's not a bad baller by any means.
Or Reggie Jackson's Reggie Jackson.
And Pat Beverly,
He's got to be.
Yeah, they're not.
Reggie Jackson's got to be what, top 20 guard?
Yeah. Oh, for
top
sure.
20 guard
He's
versus
not
like a top 10.
superstar. He's definitely a guy who can go
Yeah.
and get you buckets, but he's not. Yeah, they can.
You think of who they'll be playing in the next round, right? Like Chris
Yep.
Paul and Devin Booker. You're going to want to play. You're going to want to have Mike
You're
Conley
gonna want
healthy
Mike
for that
Conley out
series.
there, 100%.
Yeah.
Who is playing point for them? Because I know Jordan Clarkson is their sixth man, but does he play point? Who is playing point for
Jordan
Jazz?
Clarkson's been coming off the bench, from my understanding.
Royce
I haven't
O'Neal?
actually seen. It may have been Royce O'Neal. Let me see here quickly for us. Oh, they've been starting Joe Ingles. Joe Ingles as opposed to Jordan Clarkson. So
Okay.
they've just been playing Ingles off,
Been playing-
and Donovan's been playing the point guard.
Been
essentially.
playing point, right? Because he can
Yeah.
easily play it. Okay, yeah, no, it's been great. I mean, the Clippers. Again, you're looking at them and you're like, what is going on with these guys? It's just their series curse, man. It's the Clippers curse.
100%. Well, you also look at how good the Jazz have been. Like Jordan Clarkson has been such a spark plug off the bench. Talk about an irrational confidence guy. This guy is just so confident in what he takes. So to give you an idea, he was the only player that scored off the bench for them that last game. No
Wow.
other players scored, and they played 4 other guys or 3 other guys.
And
plus
you
him.
need that. You need that off the bench. You need that guy
Mhm.
who's going to come out and get you buckets. That's what your sixth man is for, is to keep
Mhm.
the game going. That when you take your starters off, you got a guy who's going to go out there and get you buckets. I'm looking at the Jazz team here too, and I don't know if Phil, if you remember, but these guys went through a lot of big men. the last couple of years.
Oh,
And
did they ever?
everyone kept judging them like, what are you guys doing? Why are you going through big man? They were running big man after big man after big man, and everyone's like, the game is changing. And now here we go. We're seeing Jazz number one, and they finally found the big man. So if they win it this year, congrats to them, because a lot of the time people are judging them and saying like, why are you trying to build around big men? They got their big
Hmm.
man. Now they've developed around that, and it's a pretty nasty team. And Gobert obviously has shown that, like, as a center, it's still very important to have a defensive player of the year. He's locking in their defense. Even when you have a team that's gone out, spread the floor, Gobert is a healthy, athletic center who can get out and stretch and stop the threes too. And man, is it fun to watch.
Absolutely. Well said. I think the big thing with the Jazz as well is they have to keep him on the floor if they're going to win. They
Yes.
can't take him off the floor. They don't have another
Yeah.
option,
You
really,
got Derek Favors
especially
who
with Conley.
backs up, but that's he's was very good for a long time, but he's not Rudy Gobert. He's a great
Yeah.
backup, but he's not Rudy Gobert.
Do you think the Clippers have a chance to come back? Do you think the Jazz have got this series?
I think you'd be silly not to assume that the Clippers could fight back.
Yeah,
Like, I'm looking at the
they're going
stats of the
home.
last couple of games here on my other screen, and you're seeing Kawhi, who's having decent nights, but nothing crazy. Um, Paul George has been playing well. It's must be.
He's sneaky though because he's been playing well because he's getting points at the end of games. He was so not impactful these last two games. Really, honestly, you can see he's a secondary star versus a primary star.
Yeah,
That would be the big conclusion I have from watching these is that
and they
it's
don't have a
Kawhi Leonard's
leader.
team.
That's what I was listening
Yeah,
to all week, and I
a
agree.
vocal
Like,
leader.
yeah,
Hmm.
they don't have a leader. Kawhi Leonard is a superstar in his own bout, but he's not a leader. And
Hmm.
and I don't say that in a bad way. I think Kawhi Leonard is a leader in a way, but he's not the guy that's gonna be pulling you to the side and saying you gotta do that. He's not a LeBron James. He's his own guy, and he's gonna
Lead
do
by
what he's gonna.
example.
Yeah, he's lead by example, and that doesn't always work for a lot of players. You need that vocal leader. But then
Hmm.
and I think that's always been something the Clippers struggle with, because they bring in all these like great players, superstars, and then you have all these big people who try to be the leader, and there's just too many big personalities and big players in there that you can't, because when you go down their bench, like, you have guys who have been in the league forever, like, you can't. Yeah, it's just a lot of personalities on that team, and the Clippers have always struggled with that. It's hard to lead with that.
100%.
But I think that's enough for that series. Let's jump on to the Suns Nuggets, because that's where it's getting fun. The East will be a quick talk because there's not a ton going on right there. But this Jazz Clipper and Suns Nuggets right now. Suns up 2-0. Obviously the Nuggets are struggling without having main point guard. It's been a big loss, and now we're finally starting to see it show up. Portland didn't take advantage of it. The Suns are doing it big time. But as well, as we found out with Gobert winning the Defensive Player of the Year for the third time, Nikola had his first MVP, and there's a lot of big things that came with this MVP. This was not a small MVP. So the three things to break down. First, Denver Nugget to win MVP, so that's pretty cool to put some fun stuff in for Denver fans. First center since Shaq in 2000 to win an MVP.
21 years later.
21 years later, Shaq
Wow.
throwing out you brought the center back to the league. So that was a big shout out from Shaq, especially since they're not very similar players in that sense. So it was very, very big on Shaq, because Shaq has been basically chirping centers for a very long time. So that's actually some
Absolutely.
pretty heavy words from Shaq.
High
We've seen
praise.
2 years ago that Kobe Bryant challenged Nikola to get the MVP. And now coming through. So it's a good homage to Kobe and the things he used to challenge players to. And he's also and this is the biggest one, the lowest pick to ever win an MVP. Round 2, pick 41.
MVP.
MVP. The lowest before that, Phil. Giannis and Nash, round 1, pick 15.
Wow. 30 picks, more or less. Basically a full round.
Again, that just shows you how dominant players are in that first 15, because it's never been past pick 15 has an MVP entered into
It's
the
always
league.
been a lottery pick,
And now
essentially.
you have Nikola, round 2, pick 41. Congrats to whoever Denver Nugget. That man deserves a big raise and lots of cash.
The
Just send him
scout.
lots. Yeah, whatever scout that was, just send him a lot of cash. Send him a lot of cash.
Biggest
So
bonus possible.
it's
Absolutely.
really quite cool to see. Again, obviously, a lot of big things happening for centers this year. Ben Wallace, the first undrafted player to make the Hall of Fame ballot. Rudy Gobert getting his third Defensive Player of the Year, potentially going to be going for his fourth, and maybe break the fifth. Might be the first one to do it. A lot of big things for centers this league. Embiid could have been, honestly, the other center to receive an MVP. Just didn't play as many games, but we're seeing him dominate. We're seeing the centers kind of come back into the league, and for a long time, everyone like they're done. And now we have a dominant force of defensive big men, shooting big men, passing big men, and it's really fun for the game.
Is Adam Silver Leonardo da Vinci? Because I feel like we're bringing on the Renaissance.
I like it, Phil.
Sorry, I had to try to pull that pun out.
Oh,
I just thought of it on the spot.
You got to do it when inspiration hits. Right? You got to pull it. So yeah, obviously though, that was a big year for Nikola. Now their Nuggets are down 2-0 though, and the Suns are looking very strong. Chris Paul is, and I found this on Reddit as well, which is just incredible, Phil. Chris Paul is 7 games away from number 3 in all-time total assists. 7 games away. I don't know, probably 7 assists away is probably what I meant to say, from all-time total assists from being third. And he's not even in top 50 turnovers.
Wow, that's an impressive stat.
So that's
a really impressive stat.
You had made a note there, 15 assists, no turnovers, which if you're not a basketball fan, 15 assists and no turnovers as the main point guard is
with a hurt shoulder.
It's just unheard of. Yeah. Like you're guaranteed as a point guard or anybody who dominates the ball most of the game, you're expecting 2 to 3 turnovers. They happen, tips happen, but this man has been doing it for a long time, and he's just, all his passes are clean, and it's just showing up. He's just affirming his GOAT position in the sense of floor general and pass first type point guard, and it's pretty fun to watch. Phil, what's kind of your thoughts on this series so far?
I think you've hit it well that Nikola Jokic won MVP, but I feel like it's all for naught the way the Nuggets have been playing. Michael Porter Jr. has been hurt.
Yeah.
One of the things I was listening to on one of the podcasts this week, I'm forgetting the name, but it was talking about how John Hollinger, who was the Memphis Grizzlies GM, they saw Michael Porter Jr. as an amazing talent, but he had the worst medical they've ever seen from a draft prospect. And I think it kind of holds through with what we've seen in Michael Porter Jr. is he's an amazing talent, but he gets injured all the time. We've talked about him extensively on the show, and he's a hell of a player, but the reality is the man gets hurt all the time. And Nikola really needs a second star to kind of help him and back him up to win this series. And I think the Nuggets are done. The way that DeAndre Ayton's played Jokic, he's really almost played him to a draw. He can't be played to a draw if the Nuggets are going to win. And the way the Suns have been playing him single coverage has been huge. Absolutely huge.
It's just a matter of time before Jamal Murray's injury would show up against the team.
Absolutely. And I think that's what you said as well. Yeah, you said as well, like with the Trailblazers had the opportunity given how weak the backcourt is right now for the Nuggets. But the reality is that the backcourt of a Chris Paul and Devin Booker is quite a differentiator. If Reggie Jackson's a top 20 point guard, Campazzo's got to be a top 40. So
yeah,
I think it really shows the difference.
Hey, look,
and he's playing as well.
Great on him for stepping up and doing his best to be that guy and stepping into it. But you're up against Chris Paul, you're up against Donovan Mitchell. He just doesn't have the play time or the ability to perform against guys like that. I mean, you got a guy doing 15 assists with no turnovers. Like it's a hard team. They're an efficient team, and the Nuggets just don't. I don't think we see a sweep. I don't think that's.
I think they should win one. They should win one in Denver.
But especially with them, like Michael Porter Jr. being hurt, that's a big blow. That pretty much sums it up. I know we had said Austin Rivers has been playing well for the Nuggets, but again, he's not, been a big enough spark to really push them past anything.
No, but yeah, I would say not.
That's it for.
I would say the other thing. The other thing just to add is you're mentioning kind of the turning point that happened in the second game with leading on Gobert. There was a point where Monty Williams, the Suns head coach, decided to leave Ayton on with 3 fouls, and he finished the game with 3 fouls, and that was very early into the first quarter. He had the ability to trust his player and continue going on with that momentum and not foul out of the game. Otherwise, if he takes out of the game, I'm sure Denver goes on a run and perhaps wins game 2. And then we've got a 1-1 series. So I would say that's a big turning point as well.
It is. Phil, you're
Yeah,
my
but
East leader, I believe, unless you have anything else to sum up for them.
no, let's move on to the East. The East, as you kind of alluded, has not been as exciting as the West. I would say the East has been a little underwhelming with what we've seen. We just had game three tonight between the 76ers and the Hawks, and the 76ers did win that game. So with the 76ers winning the game, Embiid's been dominant. That's one thing that we can really see. I think when we talked last week, we were hesitant to kind of commit on the series what we thought because he has a torn meniscus, or low we've been told, and here he's getting 35 and 35 and 35. Looks like he's healthy and okay, which is a good news for the 76ers.
I think we're seeing an eclipse of Danny Green, my friend. His minutes have been dropping pretty heavy this
He got
series.
hurt this game. He got
Oh, he
hurt
did.
this
Okay, I
game.
was gonna say four
Yeah.
minutes. I knew his minutes were being declined, but okay, he did get hurt.
No, he got hurt right in the first quarter when I was
Ah,
watching the game
sucks.
tonight. Yeah, so he got pulled out, was limping, something with a lower leg injury, from what I could tell. I didn't really see the final report, but he hobbled off.
Okay,
So the 76ers bench to kind of come to play in this last game. They had
and
46
they do have a
points.
deep bench. My
They
goodness.
played well. They've played really well. I've been really impressed with the 76ers. Their Korkmaz had, I think, 11 in the first quarter. He was off to a really good start that really helped spark plug them and bring them forward. So I think that's going to be big for the 76ers to win the series. John Collins had a really good last game here. I think he shot about 71% this last bit. Trey's been really good, but they're starting to match size upon him. And
Yeah.
that's starting to make it a little bit more challenging for Trey. I think we're going to probably see the 76ers win this series. My guess would be 5 or 6, but we'll see what kind of happens. What's your thoughts on the series thus far?
Yeah, I mean, you give credit to the Hawks. They played really well and they deserve to be in the seat that they're in. Trey Young's the real deal. You can't deny
Mm-hmm.
that. The 76ers are the better team, and they were even I could you could argue last year they were the better team. They just didn't perform. And this year, Joel has stepped it up and has now kind of been that guy to take over when they needed it. And yeah, I mean, the 76ers shouldn't lose this. Trey Young's, like I said, he's great, but he's going to have to average 40 to try to get by the
Or
76ers.
Bogdanovich has
They
really has
added
to
some
step
great,
up.
yeah, Bogdanovich. They have a great team. I'm not going to deny the team they have. I know a lot of people always say Danilo is like toast, but he's a great player. I love Danilo. I think he's always
He had a pretty
constantly
good game.
17 points. He's always been a good player. He's always getting a guy who's going to get you 15 to 20 points
Consistent
and
when he's
consistent.
healthy.
Yep. They have a good team. I like you said,
They're still very young.
The Hawks very much rely on Trey Young to be their guy, and the 76ers have multiple people who can be the guy when they need. If Joel Embiid is having a bad night, there's multiple players off their bench that can step up. There's just like when you look at the
Mm-hmm.
Hawks, and I'm looking at this team, I see all these people they put around Trey Young who are complementary players and great to score off ball and off Trey Young. But when Trey Young's not on the floor, the Hawks don't have a solid offense
Mm-hmm.
where you can
Well, they're
take Joel
trying.
Embiid. Yeah, but
They're
who's like,
trying, but they're still young.
yeah,
Bogdanovich has had an amazing season. I think he's been a huge acquire from them. He was supposed to go to the Bucks in the offseason, but obviously that trade wasn't seen as proper, and he ended up in Atlanta. That's a conversation for another day. But I've been really impressed with him. He was really hot at the start of the game, and then he just faded off closer to the end. John Collins was slow at the start, and then really ramped up at the end of the game. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him in the offseason because he's up for a contract. So do they offer a max? Do they not? Do they try to match? Do they let him walk?
yeah, we'll
Really
see.
depends. It really depends what they do. But I think the 76ers got this series. I think they'll walk through.
Yep, as long as even Danny Green has an injury down is a replaceable player off the 76ers bench. You can't say that for the Hawks, and that as we know, when you get to the playoffs, it's all about how deep your bench goes because injuries are going to happen. You're playing hard, you're playing more minutes, you're playing back to backs quite often, and every game counts. When you have someone like Dwight Howard and Matisse and George Hill, who are guys coming off
Mm-hmm.
the bench who would technically be starters for a lot of other like lower seeded teams, you realize just how deep this team goes. Shake Milton. I mean, this team is deep, and they're going to be very
Shake
strong.
Milton won them game two. He was unbelievable in game two. He was a massive spark plug for them. And Doc Rivers let him fly and let him go, and that was huge. I think the other thing with the Danny Green injury, I think it may have been a blessing in disguise because they've been playing Danny Green on Trey Young, and that has not been a favorable matchup. And then it kind of forced them today to kind of change up their scheme and make it a little bit more friendly towards their bigger players. Because when you have Simmons, who's almost 7 foot, and you have Harris, who's 6'8", Joel, who's 7 foot, you put on Tybal, who's 6'7", and you've just got Seth Curry there. You've got massive wingspans covering the floor. That's a hell of a defense, really.
Dwight Howard. I mean, look, you can't
Yeah.
argue that he's still not a good position and filler, like defender. Like he's still a solid player for who he is. You know, well, as we were just talking, one of the only other players on that list that's still active that has 3 defensive player of the years. You lose your step, you lose some athleticism, but you don't lose the IQ.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's an interesting series, and I think the next one here and the last one that we'll just chat about today, Nets and Bucks.
Yep.
Nets could have easily been up 3-0. There were a couple plays there down the stretch. Joe Harris went 1 of 11 in game 3. He didn't play a very strong game. Bruce Brown took 17 shots, and he took 2 shots right at the end. I think there was a little bit of baiting, similar to the Marcus Morris shot that was blocked by Rudy there for the Jazz series. And it was a rock fight. It was a recap of 90s basketball, 86-83. When I see that score and check back to it, I thought it was in the third quarter, but lo and behold, that is the end of the game. Nets lose, Bucks win, and the Bucks are almost back in this series. Do you think they come back and win this thing, or do you think the Nets can wrap it up in 5 or 6? Or what's your thoughts behind
as I've told and will hold to for the rest of my life, for the rest of this playoff series, if someone gets up on the Nets, it's over. You just got to get up. You have to get up. You have to get ahead of them. The Bucks have to win the next game, or it's over. Because if they don't, because the Nets are going to come back strong. They're going to come back hard. They're going to come back with offensive firepower, and they're going to look to just score. If you as a team can stop that mentally, that's going to shift a lot of things for the Nets. I'm telling you, man, that's a mentally weak team. And I'm not, no disregard, no shame to any of those players. I'm not trying to chirp them. They're but as a mentally team, as you've looked at like Kyrie and you look at Kevin Durant over their past and things like that, you get into their head, you can make them start to miss shots. It's the only way you stop superstars like that, because if you're not in their head, they're going to drop 40 on you.
I think KD's too good.
I think so too, but I also think we talked about this. So mentally, it's a mental aspect. It's the only way you can shut Kevin Durant down. Sure. It's the only way you can shut him down. Look
I think they won't. I think the Nets still got this series. I'm sticking Nets in 5.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I am too. Unless the Bucks get up. If the Bucks win the next game, there's a chance. If they don't, it's all over. But look at when Kevin Durant was with Golden State Warriors and him and Draymond were getting at each other.
That was regular season though, right?
I know. I'm just saying there's and look at Kyrie and all the things with the Celtics that have happened, and he wanted out. If you can get in their heads, and that's all I'm saying. It's not an easy thing to do because they're superstars and they're amazing basketball players. The only way you take down the Nets is a mental game. And if you can get mentally into their head and get up, you got a good chance to fight them. But that's not an easy.
I think the Bucks are too nice in a way.
Yeah, they're not.
PJ Tucker gives a little bit of spice to them, but you kind of follow your leaders in basketball. Giannis
it's not
and
a gritty
Middleton
team.
are nice guys. It's not a gritty team.
It's not a gritty team, and I don't think they'll have a chance to do it, unfortunately. But I do think that's the way you take the Nets down. It's the only way you get down is a mental game with them, because you're not going to match them offensively. It's just no way. Even with James Harden out.
Game 4 on Sunday, 3 p.m. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in this series, but I think that's all we got for playoff wrap-ups, and maybe we can do some NBA top
shots. All right, so for those of you, we're going to jump over to that, our last segment. Let us know also what your thoughts are on the playoffs. I'd love to have them. But Top Shot. We're going to bring that up here. You're going to see that on your page here. This is a really fun thing that Phil introduced me to, and one of my other friends, Chris, who did one of our announcings for a game a couple weeks back. Top Shots is basically, think about like card collecting, but digitally. I think that's the best way to describe it, right, Phil?
I like collecting. You're holding an NFT.
Yeah. So what came out today was, as you see, this the 2021 NBA playoff series release 1. So this is the first time. And when we go to I believe my collections, we're going to go my packs, and we're going to open it up.
That's right.
And so basically you purchase a pack, and then you kind of open it up just like we're going to do right now. And there's 3 things per each one, and we're going to see what we get. And if this is your first time watching it, I'm excited for you to see what this is all about. And
these are all new to us. We have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah,
so it's
this
exciting.
is the first time they've done a playoff release, and it's for this playoff. So when we open it up, we get, we have 3 things here. Phil, where am I going? Middle, left, right?
Let's go left.
Left. Okay, so click to reveal. Who we getting? Ooh, a dunk by Jackson
Jackson Hayes.
Hayes. Nice pass from Ingram. Big dunk down the
Boom.
lane. I like that. For those of you that aren't listening in audio, I encourage you to come over to YouTube because it's very hard to explain these because they are NFTs.
About the 44-minute mark. 44-minute mark if you want to jump in at that time.
Yeah, so basically this is what it shows you. Shows you the dunk, shows you the final score of the game. It gives a little description, and you can leave some other things. But right now we're interested in what's going on. We're going to go to the right now. Phil's going to do his pack after this. Oh, okay. Here we go. Harrison Barnes, three-pointer.
Ooh, a little step back.
A little step back.
Ooh.
That's
Splash.
a nice play. Harrison Barnes, I always liked him. He's not what he used to be. But
Very good glue guy. Very good glue
has
guy.
really cemented himself as being a great guy. Ooh, that's a nice three. So that's just a little step back over.
Also, a fun fact for him.
Yep.
Last year he refused to shave until the Kings got back to 500. The Kings did not get back to 500, so he broke his promise.
So yeah, well, thank you for the fun fact. This is what Top Shots is all about, learning about things. So this last one here should be a playoff, as far as I know, because I think it's guaranteed one NBA playoff pack. So let's see what we're getting here. An assist from Marcus Smart against the Nets. Ooh, okay.
Oh, behind the back, very nice.
All right, so we have a steal, a pass, a behind the back pass from Marcus Smart.
Tristan Thompson
with a big dunk on the Nets. That's nice, man. That's a nice play.
And that was the Boston Celtics win. There you go.
Celtics win. I'm really happy with that. That's awesome. That was a great play. Okay, Phil. I'm gonna have you share yours. Tell me what's up, and we'll jump right into it.
Alrighty. The screen is now shared, and I have it on Top Shot.
Okay.
You see.
Yep.
I was also looking up what NFT meant, and it's non-fungible token for those that are curious.
All right, so Phil's pack here. I'll let you kind of take it away, Phil. I get to pick your first one, though.
Yes, you do. Where are we going?
Oh, it came in with the music on this one.
Did it ever?
Here, do you want to hit the mute button in the top left?
There we go. We're on mute.
Okay.
I can't hear you. I'm afraid that would be one fun fact here. So we're going to go with this one. Yeah, we're going right. Okay.
Oh,
so
okay.
We got a dunk. Kristaps Porzingis against the Bucks. Ooh, all right.
I like it. Big dunk.
Beautiful jam by Kristaps Porzingis
against
the Bucks. Nice. Bam. Right on Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez looking slow on that play. Ooh, and then Kristaps, that beautiful stare afterwards. We're going to work our way inside like the last one here, too.
Handles. All right. We got Jaylen Brown versus the Clippers, or versus the Lakers.
For you. Okay. Ooh, a little behind the back. Little nice fancy to lay in.
A little laggy on our side.
Taylor Horton Tucker. You ain't worth Kyle Lowry. Get out of this house. That's Jaylen Brown for you, ladies and gentlemen.
All right,
Beautiful
Phil.
Little highlight. Okay.
Our last one.
Should be our playoff moment. 3-pointer. Ooh, we got a Jokic. Oh, steps into it. No doubt.
That's nice.
That is a nasty one. Just steps into it.
Good serial
confidence
number.
On the big guy. Eh? Good serial number. You're right.
Nice, man. Nice. That's a good one. That's one to hold on to, Phil, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And our buddy Chris's favorite player, too. What more can we ask to end the night? That's great.
Okay, well, that is NBA Top Shots. We will do them whenever we get packs, which isn't every week. It's generally every couple weeks we have our ability to get a pack. I hope you liked it. We love it, so we're going to add it in. And we're super pumped to just be episode 12 and be talking playoffs. This is our fun. We'd love to just have you give any response to any of our questions ever if you want to. And we look forward to see you all for episode 13 next week. Phil, sign us off.
Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Lucky number 13 next week. Let's see what brings it.
Woo, peace.
Peace.